Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second half, shall we? All right, guys, so I mentioned Skinwalker Ranch, and I did that for a reason. Anytime I ever talk about Skinwalker Ranch, I bring up a couple of things. I bring up the history of what a skinwalker really is, the Native American history of it. Not the Reddit, Hollywood, creepypasta version, but the real version. And those of you who are Navajo will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I've had people email me saying, thank you for recognizing that the Skinwalker or the Ye Nadalushi is not what is portrayed on creepypastas, in Hollywood, in TV shows. It's something much deeper. And also, I talk about this portal that was opened up just outside of Skinwalker Ranch. There's a hunter, and he was sitting on this kind of ridge off a ways, just watching. He had some game in his sight, but he didn't shoot that day because he just wasn't in the mood. You know, he was more in the mood to be outside. And as he's sitting there watching this ridge or this kind of canyon below him, not really a canyon, just, a hill, and a lower part of the section, he sees this kind of blackness just form. And it just, and out drops this just terrifying creature. It didn't look like a Dogman. It didn't look like a Bigfoot. It didn't look like a crawler. It looked like nothing what we, when we talk about cryptids, think of. This thing obviously came from a completely alternate dimension. And he saw it, and it dropped out, and the thing, it didn't look at him. It didn't know it didn't even know he was there. It just dropped out and gone. And he sat for a second out of fear and confusion, and he looked, but he couldn't see into the portal. And it closed, and he got up and went the other way. So Utah, as we all know, is home of the Skinwalker Ranch, where you have cryptid, you have paranormal, you have, UAP, UFO. When I say paranormal, I shouldn't just say paranormal. You have ghosts, you have entities. It's just an assortment of terror. And one of the few places that we know of that contains all of these, whatever you want to call them, however you want to classify them in. I know there's another ranch, I forget the name of it, Frog Ranch or something like that, but I've never heard of it. I heard of it, just through passing by. It's nothing like Skinwalker Ranch. I actually question the validity of that, but anyway, this gentleman reaches out to me, and we'll call him Rick, or Richard, excuse me. He's an older gentleman. He's in his 60s, young 60s. And he's out in Utah in Weber County. He doesn't live in Weber County, but he was out in this area called Hardy Hollow, Utah. And it's this real isolated area in Weber County. Just a vast openness, some trees, real pretty area, I guess. And he's kind of like a treasure hunter, like a modern day treasure hunter. Artifacts, looking for Native American artifacts. Early settlers, artifacts, and stuff like that. And he goes out. It's his hobby. He goes out with his metal detector, and he searches for artifacts and such. So back in 2018, on an August day, it was a beautiful sunny day with some clouds. High was about 85. He's been out there for a couple of hours, and he was not even ready to get going. He was just doing his thing. And he is in this area. He's kind of just searching around. And he kind of wanders over to where this tree line is. And he's just sweeping across with his metal detector. And he kind of turns back. He said, I don't know why, but I just, I'm sweeping along with my metal detector, and I kind of turned. And as I turned, he said, I saw this kind of shift in the distance. It was like this kind of like gas on a hot summer road. That kind of, that very narrow, or that very weird kind of, whatever you want to call it, that as you're looking, you can see it. Almost vapor kind of, but not. And he sees this kind of like narrow void open. And when I'm talking to him, I'm like, what do you mean? Like a portal? And he's like, no. He goes, I don't want to go too far on that right now, but it was different than what a portal would look like. He said it was almost like a tear in the distance. And at first he thinks he's hallucinating. He's like, have I been out here? It's not that hot. Have I been out? I know I've drank enough water. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any kind of mind-altering substances. And so he's like, what the hell is this? And what he sees as he's looking at kind of like this void, and it looked almost like an invisible door is on one side and a wall is on the other, and it kind of opens, kind of like that. And what he sees, he says, I see this creature that was very similar to the werewolves on the Underworld movies. It was a darkish gray colored. Maybe it had a little black in it, but it was very, not silver, but a very dark gray. And it was huge. He said it was at least at least 8 feet in height. Its shoulder width was huge. He said, as I'm looking at this thing, it was crazy to imagine this thing fit through this narrow void because its shoulders were so big. Nothing at this time that he's seeing is making sense in his brain at all. And, he's trying to figure out exactly what he is seeing. What seems like minutes is just a couple of seconds. The creature has not taken notice of him at this point. And all of a sudden, he hears this noise. And how he described it, it was not high-pitched. It was this body-shaking, deep noise that erupted. It felt deep. Almost like if you get close to anyone my age and maybe younger, heck, maybe everybody will know. But when I was growing up, the big thing in the early 90s was bass in a car. The more bass you had, the better you felt about your car. It didn't matter if it was vibrating every bolt loose out of your car. But as long as it was, you could have that, the bass could sound good, but that vibration just ruined it. But that you felt it in your chest, And that's the noise he kind of felt. And as he's trying to describe it, he said, I can't explain it because it's unimaginable to have a noise have a feeling. He said, I've heard people describe infrasound. He said, and I can almost imagine what that would be like, but this was just something so unusual to my body and how it felt. Now, at this point, he kind of stops talking for a second. He says, I know that you have spoken to a lot of people and you've probably heard people say, this is going to sound strange, but it is what happened. And he did. He said, how I have never been able to explain or share what happened with anyone other than my wife, because I knew if I told anybody that I would probably end up in behavioral health unit. MHU. And he then proceeds to tell me. So as this noise is kind of erupting and, he's looking at this creature, what he sees then is this creature kind of turns and now notices him. They both are feeling, or he is feeling, the noise. But now the creature notices the noise and turns to kind of figure out where the noise is coming from, but spots him at the same time. The creature turned and stared at him, and He said this creature had ember colored eyes, not amber, but ember colored eyes. They were an evil kind of fire red. And it took a couple of steps toward him. This noise is still going on. It's not, this has only been seconds, okay? So he's watching this creature. He feels the noise. The noise is like over here towards where the wood line is. The Dogman is over here. And he's watching, and he looks over and he looks back. The Dogman turns to look at where the noise is coming from. That's when it spots him. And what he sees now is what he said really is unbelievable even to him, and he experienced it. As this creature seemed to start taking a step toward him, this kind of hole opens up, and it's a large hole. And how I explained the hole with that hunter, like almost if this was the hole, the portal, and the creature dropped out, okay, it would be like this would be the and it was about 10 feet by 10 feet, almost circular. And, you know, portal, he didn't know. He didn't know what he was looking at. All he knows is he's got this creature, this terrifying creature in front of him, this strange noise. He just watched this thing come through a void, and now there's this huge opening right there next to him. Not next to him exactly, but a good 50 feet away. And what comes out of this portal appears to be a squad of armed men. They were wearing like black tactical clothing instead of camo pants. They were black, like fatigue pants, but they were black. They were wearing black, all blacked out. They didn't have any kind of long sleeve. They were wearing t-shirts, and they had long rifles, and of course were equipped with pistols. And a couple of them had bags that were black as well. And so when this black portal opens up, all he sees is these men coming out, and he can see, you know, their skin tone is different, but the black of their clothes and the black of that portal really is kind of strange for him to see. The reason why he said squad is because he was former Army, and what he counted was 9 men plus what looked to be one that was in command of those 9 men. So in his eyes, that was a squad. As he sees all of this, the men don't see him. The Dogman is now turned staring at this portal and the men that are walking out. He steps back into the woods behind some brush and some wood, you know, a patch of trees to hide, essentially. He had no idea what was going on. He and his eyes were like, maybe I'm hallucinating this. I don't know what the hell is going on, but this is scary. I'm turning 60. He's now 60s, in his 60s, but he was turning 60 in the general vicinity of this time. Never had anything like this happen. Always, he said his most stressful day since he retired was when it rained and he was stuck indoors with his wife and he couldn't go outside and do his hobbies. So, this is mind-blowing for this gentleman. The Dogman at this point is now looking away from him and is staring at these men. It's growling and snarling at them. And it appears to him that it has seen these men before, because there is not kind of like a cock of the head, like, who the hell are you? What's going on? It's an instantaneous, like, you are my enemy. You are my enemy, and I know who you are and why you're here. It drops down onto all fours, and it starts to run kind of like northwest towards the mountains. And he is set back into the trees now. He's kneeling down. He's got his metal detector with him, his bag, everything. And he's just crouched in this brush line. These men open fire. And as he's hiding in this grouping of trees, he at this point isn't aware if they can see him or not. And, that's really something he's thinking, these guys are what is this thing that I'm looking at? Now these guys just came out of this hole in the atmosphere, and now they're shooting at this monster. Am I next? As the creature's running, they open fire, and the creature drops. It dropped. And he said when it dropped, it made this kind of whine, this real sad whine. He, growing up, being a little older than me, a lot older than me, but he grew up on like black and white Lassie and stuff. And he said it was that whine, like that, just when a dog is in pain. He goes, I felt bad for it at first when I heard that one whine. And he said, I knew it was dead. He said the men ran over to the creature, and the one that was in charge of everyone looks at the creature and puts a round into its head or face, either or. They were about a half a football field away, at this point, because that's the creature just gone, and they opened fire as they're running. So he can't hear what they're saying. He can hear them talking to each other, but he's making bits and pieces out. As he's watching them and trying to figure out what he's going to do and what they are going to do, because he doesn't know, how long are these guys going to be here? What's going to happen? He thinks that now right at this point, he's like, I'm busted, because one of the soldiers is now walking back towards my area. As this soldier is walking by him in this brush pile, he realizes that the soldier went and picked up 2 black packs, and he notices on the right shoulder of the soldier that there is an American flag. And that's something that always stuck with him, because he's just like, this is just so bizarre. Being former Army, knowing that the flag goes on the right shoulder and why the flag goes on the right shoulder and why the stars are facing towards, the way you're running. He's like, I wonder if there's some kind of special force that deals with this, because now we hear Space Force and, what do we need Space Force for? Obviously, we know what we need Space Force for, but he is, just petrified. He sees him walk by, notices the flag, and he gets a little feeling of pride, but fear at the same sense, because he's scared. His legs are sore from how he's kneeling down, and the soldier picks up the packs. Now the soldier has the packs, and he's walking back towards where the rest of his group of men are. And very briefly, as Richard is watching all of this, he's, looking down that way, looking to see where the guy is. He sees the guy walk by slow, and very quickly, the soldier turns his head and looks directly in the area. He's not sure if he could see him 100% or if he caught Richard hiding out of the corner of his eye initially when they first came out of that portal. But he went and walked back to where his men were. By the time that soldier got back to where the men were, they had the creature in what appeared to be a large kind of body bag, and the creature was picked up by 6 men, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, 2 in the back. And all of a sudden, that feeling, that noise came back. And as quick as this all started and happened, that portal opened up in front of those men, and they walked into it and were gone. They walked in with this creature bagged up and into the portal. The whole event couldn't have lasted longer than 7 to 10 minutes, if that. And he honestly doesn't know, because his watch, he had an automatic watch that is self-winding when you move. And his watch stopped. These watches don't stop. Self-winding watches don't stop unless you leave it on your dresser for a couple of days. Usually they have like a 72-hour window of usage to them. And but he notices that his watch reads 3:24 on it. He wasn't aware of the time prior to this all happening. And he stayed hidden for at least 10 minutes after the portal appeared and disappeared and the men walked into it. He stayed in that location hidden. He realized that his watch had stopped, and when he came out after that extended time that he waited, he walked over to where the Dogman and the soldiers first came out, looking for any kind of evidence. And he takes his phone out. And during all this, he didn't put it together that he should have had his phone out. But what he said next goes, even if I did, when I took my phone out of my bag, my watch was dead. My phone was dead. He said, Jeff, I keep my phone charged. I'm 60 plus years now. I'm not, in bad health, but I'm in an isolated area. I want to make sure that if anything happens, I can at least call 911 or my wife and, hey, I fell. Hey, something happened. So he sees these tracks. He sees boot tracks. He sees these huge canine tracks that at one point are bipedal and then at another point are quadruped. And he's like, holy shit, I got proof of this. I can take my phone out and take a picture. His phone's dead. And he's like, what the hell? So now everything is going bizarro for him. He walks over to where they shot the creature. And what he sees, because he's looking for, kind of evidence of these portals and evidence of what just occurred. Well, he had some. So he walks over to where the second portal opened, where these men were taking the creature, and where they had shot it, it looks like there was boot prints and the quadruped tracks ran up to this area. But anywhere where there was blood, it looked like someone had taken their boot and scuffed the dirty sand, the dirt and sand and everything in that area to kind of mix the blood, the dirt up. So, and he's just really, really upset because his phone now. And he's like, well, let me take my metal detector out, because now he's looking for casings. Maybe I can get some casings and figure out, he doesn't find any casings, but he doesn't recall the men picking any of the casings up. And he takes his metal detector out and turns it on, and it doesn't turn on either. His metal detector's dead. So any kind of electronic, or his watch that was self-winding, which is rare and unheard of. Because, my dad always said, if there's ever an electromagnetic storm, always have a fallback vehicle that doesn't have a computer. Like his 71 pickup that he owns. And have a self-winding watch. So you at least will know what time it is. As long as you know what time it is, you still have a sense of, you can still do whatever you need to. You still have a sense of time. You can use it to calculate maps and such. So he realizes his metal detector is dead. And he can't find any casings, but he doesn't recall the men picking up the casings. And but he also doesn't recall when they were shooting seeing any casings drop. I know that they do make a catch for casings on AR-15s, possibly M4s. I don't know. That I never was in the military, so I don't know. But he did look again for the two casings that the commander or whoever, the man that was in charge of this, not commander, but the man that was in charge when he put the round into the head or face of the Dogman, he looked for that, and the only person he's ever shared this with is his wife in the 5 years that it occurred. Mentally, it's taken its toll on him. He did go back the next day to the location, and he's been to that location multiple times prior and since. But when he got to the location, there were no more tracks. There was nothing. There wasn't scuff marks where he had seen where the body had fallen and the person in charge shot. There weren't boot prints. There weren't quadruped, biped tracks. Nothing. It was almost like nature had cleansed itself right there. The best way to explain it is that's how he said it. It was almost like nature came in with a broom and cleaned everything and made it back to what it was before this even happened. And I thought that blew me away because of the experience that hunter had seen. And, numerous accounts of portals, kind of openings in Skinwalker Ranch area. There's the farmer, him and his wife. So a farmer, not on Skinwalker Ranch, but a ranch near Skinwalker Ranch. Him and his wife were out tagging calves with the ear tags. And they walk, they'd tag, they'd walk, they'd tag. Well, they had just tagged a calf, and the mother cow was not happy because the calf was making a racket when they did tag it. So as they're walking to the next calf, they hear the mother calf or the mother cow kind of, start bellowing more, and, they turn around. Mind you, they've only walked like 200 feet. So they tagged and walked. And they turn around and they see the mother cow there, but the calf is not, right? And they're like, what the hell? Where the hell is the calf? And they're like, maybe it's behind her. They end up walking over, and what they see is the filleted carcass of this calf lying in this grass. And they knew it was that calf because of its ear tag. But it was like surgically filleted. But it was almost like these knives, or this knife was so sharp because there was no kind of tearing, there was nothing, and there was no blood. And I've always thought that whatever did that came out of a portal and did it and dropped it back to where it was. I don't know. But that's just another strange thing that's happened in that area in Utah. And, with the real historical accounts of Skinwalker, Yenadalushi, and what they really were and what they really did, you can Google it, and I urge you to. Because during the Ute-Navajo Wars, the Navajo used skins of coyote and wolves and deer at night to go and massacre the Ute. And they wouldn't just massacre the men, they massacred the whole family with poisons. They'd get up onto their dwellings. I forgot the correct term for their home. I know it wasn't a longhouse. And it wasn't a teepee either. But they would poison these people. They'd poison the Ute. They'd kill them silently. Like special forces. Silent assassins. Look it up. I'm not going to make a story up. A historic story up to go along with an experience. I have looked into this stuff for a long time. It's crazy. It's crazy. And that area of Utah is just, it's something different. It's something very different. And there is something very strange in that area. And I think that's why Skinwalker Ranch has so much power. And it's drawn. So like this just kind of drawn into that one location, and in the surrounding area feels that effect of that power. Well, there you have it, folks. Tonight's second half. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and honestly what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. They are definitely dangerous. Share this info with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.